year ago, days before the 2024 budget in Chockham, you said we made an absolute commitment that income tax wouldn't go up, national insurance wouldn't go up, their VAT, as in working people, wouldn't go up. I said that in the campaign, we're going to keep those promises. Will you make that commitment again today?
Well, Beth, we're going to set this out in just a few days.
You won't, will you?
Well,
you said that just a few days before the last budget.
You know
you did make the commitment before the last budget.
You know that the decisions will be made and set out in full in just a few days' time.
You're not going to.
You'll be able to.
Will you make the commitment again now? You won't, will you?
You will be able to hold me to account, Beth, when those principles are when those decisions are set out. But
you
the
won't
principles.
You won't rule out tax rises on working people.
The principles.
Right. Imagine declaring that Britain must draw closer to the European Union at the exact moment when the entire continent is collapsing into political turmoil and economic stagnation. Imagine looking at France drowning in debt, Germany staggering under green energy costs, and Brussels suffocating in bureaucracy, and thinking, yes, that is exactly what Britain needs, more of that. That is precisely what Keir Starmer has just done. As Rachel Reeves botches another budget, as Britain faces economic disaster, as voters demand answers, Starmer's solution is to blame Brexit, an inch closer to the European Union, and he has been absolutely destroyed on live television for this catastrophically stupid strategy. Stay with British royal family, because this political demolition is spectacular. Quick favour, if you are already furious about Starmer blaming Brexit for his failures, smash that subscribe button right now. Over 92% of you have not yet. It is completely free, takes 1 second, and genuinely means everything to us. Cheers if you did. Right, let us talk about why this European Union obsession is political suicide. As Calamity Reeves botches another budget, Prime Minister Keir Starmer declares he wants Britain to draw closer to the European Union, but with political turmoil and economic stagnation across the continent, it is really not the best time for closer ties. Nor is it the time to say Brexit is to blame for all Britain's woes. Starmer's short-sighted remarks are no surprise, however. The government and civil service must miss the European Union desperately. It was wonderful to have someone else to blame for any bureaucratic absurdity or failure to act because of European Union regulation. Now the government can only look in the mirror when it comes to finding fault. The rafts of regulations stifling Britain's economy are their decisions alone, not Brussels, not European Union bureaucrats, theirs. Having failed to trigger growth with 2 budgets, Starmer and his Remainer colleagues believe that more European Union integration will do the job. But has he really looked across the channel? Has he actually examined what is happening in Europe right now? European Union growth has stalled at just 0.2% this year. 0.2%. That is not growth. That is stagnation. That is an economy going absolutely nowhere. France is even further down the road to socialist hell than Britain is. Only 1/3 of French people work in the private sector. 1/3. That means 2/3 are either public sector workers or not working at all. Top tax rates in France exceed 55%. The average effective retirement age in France is just 60.7 years. People are retiring before they even turn 61 on average. France owes a staggering £2.82 trillion. Its interest payments alone amount to the total French defence and education budgets combined. Think about that. France is spending as much on interest payments as it spends on defending the country and educating its children. France's debt-to-GDP ratio has hit 114%. Put simply, the land of the long lunch is spending way more than it generates. It is borrowing money to sustain a lifestyle it cannot afford. And Starmer thinks this is a good model for Britain to follow. The United Kingdom is on the same path. Public sector debt reached 94.5% of GDP at the end of October. Britain is catching up to France in all the wrong ways. France's bloated welfare state and high public spending are hardly a good model for the United Kingdom, although there is some comfort in sharing the same miserable fate. President Macron continues with his tax and spend approach to appease party supporters, but it is clearly not working with attacks from the left and right bringing deadlock to his government. As for signs that Starmer's reset with the beleaguered president is bearing fruit, there is startlingly little evidence of that. The one-in one-out accord signed this summer has delivered little significant reduction in illegal migrants. It is patently clear that the French are happy to take Britain's money without delivering much enforcement. The fact is that the French are more than happy to rid themselves of troublesome migrants, facing their own domestic cause to stop the Islamification of their own country. They are not helping Britain out of goodwill. They are dumping their problems on British shores and getting paid for the privilege. Meanwhile, Germany, once the powerhouse of the European Union, is staggering under the weight of high energy costs brought by hardline green policies. Its past lax immigration rules have allowed a hard right party to rise in the polls. reaction to the misrule of soft left parties is arguably shifting the entire continent towards far less tolerant solutions. Denmark has proved it can cut immigration numbers by taking a tougher line towards asylum seekers. Perhaps that is the only good lesson to be taken from the European Union. Get tough on immigration or face political annihilation. It seems perverse that the Labour government is seeking to align itself more closely with the European Union just when it is becoming clear that Brussels-derived rules on biodiversity and the environment are making it near impossible to kickstart the British economy with more building projects. Some Labour ministers want to see a deal for greater youth mobility with the European Union, but that is running counter to the Home Secretary's efforts to reduce out-of-control immigration. And what jobs would these European youngsters do in a Britain where the Chancellor has ratcheted up the cost of employing 18 to 20-year-olds by some £4,000 a year? As always, this desperate government likes to blame others for its own dismal performance. Reversing Brexit is just the perfect plan for them, taking power out of their own incompetent hands and giving it to even more inadequate bureaucratic bunglers in Brussels. That way they can clear their desks, work their 4-day weeks and take their gold-plated pensions knowing that it is someone else's problem to sort out. That is what this is really about. Avoiding responsibility, avoiding accountability, avoiding the hard work of actually governing. Brexit was one of the most courageous and exciting choices made by the electorate in recent years. That successive governments have failed to make the most of this opportunity is not the voters' fault. It is theirs. Their low-growth, high-tax and red-tape straitjacket is what Britain voted to leave. But Labour is doubling down on a political path that is taking the country nowhere. Only an idiot would think that joining a similar club of no-hopers is the answer. France is drowning in debt. Germany is staggering under green energy costs. The European Union is experiencing 0.2% growth. Political turmoil is spreading across the continent. Far-right parties are rising. Immigration is out of control. And Starmer thinks this is the model Britain should follow. He thinks getting closer to this disaster will somehow fix Britain's problems. He thinks blaming Brexit will somehow make voters forget that his government has imposed record tax increases, broken manifesto promises, and delivered absolutely nothing except economic stagnation. Starmer has been destroyed on live television for this absurd position. He has been exposed as a man with no ideas except reverting to European Union integration. A man with no vision except undoing the democratic choice made by 17.4 million British voters. A man with no plan except blaming others for his own failures. The British people voted for Brexit because they wanted control, they wanted sovereignty, they wanted the ability to make their own decisions about immigration, regulation, and trade. They did not vote to hand that control back to Brussels because a Labour government proved too incompetent to use it effectively. They did not vote to rejoin a failing European Union because Starmer could not figure out how to deliver growth. Starmer's European Union obsession is political suicide. It is electoral poison. It is a complete betrayal of the democratic mandate given in 2016, and he is being destroyed for it. On live television, in newspapers, in opinion polls, in focus groups, everywhere voters are being asked, they are saying the same thing. We did not vote for this. We did not vote for a Prime Minister who would blame us for his failures and try to reverse Brexit through the back door. The only question now is how long Starmer can survive this backlash, how long he can continue pushing closer European Union ties whilst the continent collapses around him, how long he can continue blaming Brexit whilst his own policies fail spectacularly. The answer, judging by his collapsing poll numbers and growing internal party rebellion, is not very long at all. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.